Hey, did you know that only 13% of people that have an HSA account are investing those funds? Meaning that 87% of people are just letting it sit in a savings account. And according to CNBC, the average HSA account holder spends 96% of the annual contributions on medical expenses each year, meaning what's going in is going out. Look, you're doing this wrong. Health savings accounts, or HSAs, are really one of the most powerful tools for managing healthcare expenses. And it can also be used as a stealth retirement account. Yet, many people are using them really inefficiently. Look, I want you to take advantage of this HSA account because it could be triple and possibly quadruple tax advantaged. All right, let's back up a little bit and explain what an HSA account is. So, if you have a high deductible health insurance plan, then you can pair it with an HSA account, which is essentially a savings account that you and your employer contribute to, much like a 401k. And the money you contribute to it, it's tax deductible. So that's tax advantage one. And those contributions that are invested, they grow tax deferred. That's tax advantage two. Then when you pull the money out to pay for, eligible medical expenses, that money coming out is tax free. That's tax advantage number three. If your employer contributes money to your HSA, then there is no payroll tax on it, like Social Security and Medicare tax. That's tax advantage number four. So it's very much like a Roth IRA, and possibly better if you use it right. So let's talk about some strategies to make this thing work better for you. But before we do, if we haven't met before, my name is Keith Wilson. I am a financial advisor helping folks just like you with their personal finance journey. All right, so you already know that you can withdraw money from your HSA to pay for eligible medical expenses without paying taxes on it, right? Well, what most people do is every medical expense that comes along, they make a withdrawal from their HSA to pay for it. That could be one thing you are doing wrong. Because here's the thing. If you pay those expenses out of your pocket, you can reimburse yourself for those expenses later, maybe in retirement, because there is no time limit of when those expenses can be reimbursed. So if you kept all those receipts over the years, for doctor visits, prescription drugs, and any other medical expenses that you've paid over the years, then you can turn around and make a withdrawal from your HSA account tax-free. And the cool thing is, it doesn't just have to be for doctor visits or hospitalizations or prescription drugs. Look, there's a whole list of eligible medical expenses that count and that are not normally covered by health insurance. Things like aspirin and Tylenol, Band-Aids, antacids, nasal spray, and a whole lot more. But the key is, you have to prove that you actually had those medical expenses. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying, Keith, do you really expect me to keep all these paper receipts for 10, 20, 30 years or more? Well, let me tell you what I do. So here's what I do. There's an app on my phone called Notes. I open it up and select Scan Documents. Then I take a picture of the receipt and it saves it as a PDF. What I do is I save it to a folder in my iCloud account, and it lives there forever. So then I have the documentation to prove the medical expense that I paid out of pocket, and it will match with the withdrawal that I made from my HSA account. My plan is to save all these medical receipts that I stored in the cloud, so when I retire, I can make tax-free withdrawals. But you have to be disciplined enough to not tap into your HSA and pay what you can out of pocket, because the more that stays in that HSA, the more it can grow potentially tax-free down the road. But you need to know this. If you do make a withdrawal from your HSA and it's not for eligible medical expense, then there would be a 20% penalty and you would pay tax on the amount withdrawn. But if you're over age 65, there would be no penalty, but you still would pay tax at your ordinary income tax rate on any amount withdrawn that was not for an eligible expense. Now, the second thing I see that people are doing wrong is they're not investing those HSA contributions. Instead of letting it sit in the savings component of the HSA, you can invest it. Like I said before, only 13% of people are investing their HSA. Don't let this be you. Think about it. You wouldn't let all your retirement dollars in a 401k sit in a savings account, would you? No. Consider investing your HSA instead of that default savings account. By investing it, you have far more greater potential of your earnings than, just in a normal savings account. Let me give you an example. In 2025, the maximum contribution to an HSA is $4,300 per year. So if you keep it in the savings account, and let's say it earns 1%, and you contribute $4,300 every year, in 30 years, it would be worth around $156,000. However, if you invest it instead, and let's say it averages 10% growth each year, then in 30 years, it would be worth over $853,000. And we are assuming that you are contributing just $4,300 each year. So this does not account for the future increases in the maximum contribution. So it could be worth far more if you contribute whatever the maximum contribution would be each year. Now, yes, I am assuming a 10% return only because that has been the average stock market return over a whole bunch of years, and that's according to NerdWallet. So this could be a great tool in retirement for tax-free withdrawals. And by the way, let's say you didn't accumulate a lot of these unreimbursed expenses by the time you retire. You saved all your receipts, but they weren't really a lot compared with what your HSA is. So let's say your HSA is worth more than the unreimbursed expenses that you've collected over the years. Well, that's okay, because you could still make withdrawals for any current expenses you would have in retirement, like your Part B premium for Medicare and other ongoing medical expenses. So do yourself a favor, treat your HSA as a retirement account by paying current medical expenses out of pocket to let that account potentially grow, and consider investing the account instead of just letting it sit in savings. If you like what you're seeing so far, check out this next video, subscribe to the channel. Lord willing, we'll see you next time.